In a crumbling, forgotten part of the city, where the hum of life seemed distant and faded, a stray dog wandered alone. The streets, lined with peeling buildings and piles of trash, offered little comfort to those who lived there, much less to an animal without a home, without care. It wasn't much more than a shadow among the city's hustle and bustle, blending into the background of a world that had long ago forgotten the value of compassion for the overlooked and the abandoned. This stray dog, like countless others, was used to the solitude. Its fur was matted, its body thin from months, maybe years, of surviving on scraps of food left behind by indifferent passers-by. Its eyes, though weary, held a flicker of something more, something deep and untouchable, as if the dog knew something the world didn't. Every day was the same for the dog. It roamed the alleyways, searching for food, hoping for a moment of kindness, a small piece of bread or meat to fill its empty stomach. Yet, despite its harsh existence, there was an undeniable kindness that shone through. The dog had no master, no family, but it didn't lash out at the world. Instead, it carried on, quietly living in the margins, unnoticed by most, but carrying with it a quiet dignity that few understood. But one day, the dog's world, as familiar and bleak as it had always been, would change in an instant, an unexpected moment that would lead to an unthinkable act of heroism, and ultimately, transform its life forever. It started with a sound, soft at first, almost imperceptible. The dog's ears perked up, its nose twitching as it turned toward the noise. There, near the street corner, a small figure caught its attention. A child. Barely 3 years old, and alone. The baby toddled aimlessly, its tiny feet pattering across the cracked pavement as it wandered away from the safety of its home. The dog's instincts kicked in, its gaze fixed on the child. This wasn't the first time it had seen a lost child, but something about this one felt different, urgent, like the fates themselves were drawing them together. The baby, oblivious to the dangers around it, was moving closer to the street. The stray dog knew, without a doubt, that if nothing was done, this child would be in harm's way. And fast. The dog's body tensed. It hadn't known what it meant to be a protector, to be a hero. But in that moment, it was all that mattered. The street was busy with cars speeding by, their engines roaring. The child was standing at the edge of the road, unaware of the danger. And just like that, the dog knew what it had to do. The street was chaotic. The dog could see the car coming, a blur of metal and glass speeding down the road with no sign of slowing. The baby, standing dangerously close to the edge, didn't even flinch. In the distance, a figure, the child's mother, was still too far away, oblivious to the impending disaster. Time seemed to slow down for the dog. Its heart raced as it watched the child inch closer to the road. Without thinking, the dog surged forward, its paws pounding the concrete in a flurry of motion. The sound of tires screeching in the distance. The dog's body tensed as it sprinted across the sidewalk, its muscles working in sync, driven by the most primal instinct, protect. As the dog reached the child, it made its move. The baby was too small, too unaware, and the dog couldn't risk waiting for help. With one swift motion, the dog lunged, grabbing hold of the child's shirt with its teeth. It yanked the toddler backward, pulling the child away from the path of the oncoming car. The world seemed to freeze in that split second, the tires screeching, the dog's body straining with the weight of the child, and the distant blur of the vehicle rushing past them. The child was safe. In the split second before disaster struck, the dog had done what no one else could. It was the dog, a creature so often overlooked, forgotten, that had stepped in to save the child's life. The dog didn't stop after the rescue, though. It remained there, watching over the child, standing guard like a silent protector. The child, though still shaken, looked up at the dog with wide eyes. There were no words, no cries, but in that moment, there was an undeniable understanding. The dog wasn't just an animal, it was a hero, a guardian. Exhausted but triumphant, the stray dog stood over the child, its chest rising and falling with each heavy breath. It had no idea what would come next. It wasn't even thinking about its own survival. All that mattered was that the child was safe. But as the moment stretched on, a new sound broke the silence, the frantic footsteps of the child's parents. The parents had been looking for their child, frantically calling out the toddler's name, their hearts pounding in fear. They hadn't seen the dog, didn't know what had just occurred. But as they rounded the corner, the sight that met them left them speechless. Their child, once lost, was now safe. But it wasn't just the baby they saw. The dog stood there, still vigilant, its eyes tired but determined. The child was cradled in the dog's protective stance, the air thick with a quiet tension. The parents, their fear turning into relief, rushed forward, pulling their child close and hugging them tightly. But even as they did, their eyes couldn't leave the dog. It had saved their child. Their first instinct was to thank the dog, to offer it whatever they could, but they realized something much more profound. This wasn't just a dog. This was a hero. This was an animal that had no reason to act, no obligation to save their child, and yet it had done so without hesitation. In that moment, the parents understood something they had never fully grasped before, the incredible selflessness of an animal, the way animals could show love and loyalty even when they had nothing to gain. They knelt down, carefully offering food and water to the dog, their gratitude overflowing. But there was more. They realized that the dog had no home, no family. It had been abandoned, just as many strays were. But this dog wasn't just a stray, it had proven its worth in the most miraculous way. After everything the dog had done, the parents knew they couldn't let it return to the streets. They didn't need to think twice. The dog had earned its place in their family. The dog, though initially hesitant, accepted the kindness. It had lived alone for so long, used to scavenging and fighting for its survival, but now, it was being cared for, truly cared for. The parents provided food, water, a bed, and, most importantly, love. The dog's once cold and lonely existence had been transformed. The bond between the dog and the family grew stronger by the day. The child, now forever connected to the dog, would play and laugh with it every day. The dog had gone from a stray wandering the streets to a beloved member of the family, a protector, a friend, and a constant companion. The parents, who had once passed by strays without a second thought, now had a deep understanding of the animal's capacity for loyalty and love. They saw the dog not as a mere animal but as a teacher of compassion, of kindness, and of sacrifice. And for the dog, its life was no longer one of loneliness. It had found its purpose, its family. The street no longer called to it. It had a home, a place where it was loved and cherished for the rest of its days. As the years passed, the dog grew older. Its once weary body, now at peace, was a symbol of the life it had fought to make better. The bond between the dog and the child grew deeper. The child grew up with the dog by its side, a constant reminder of the kindness and bravery that could come from the most unexpected places. For the parents, the dog's presence was a daily reminder of the power of selflessness. They had been saved by an animal, a creature that had no obligation to help, but chose to. The family would never forget the dog's sacrifice. It had taught them more than they could have imagined, about love, about compassion, and about the importance of caring for those who cannot care for themselves. The story of the stray dog was more than just a rescue, it was a life lesson. The dog had shown that heroes don't always wear capes, sometimes, they have fur, and sometimes, they come from the most unlikely of places. The dog's legacy lived on, not just in the family it saved, but in the countless others who would hear its story and understand that sometimes, all it takes to change a life is one simple, selfless act. This is the story of the stray dog who saved a baby, and in doing so, changed everything forever.